Luke Skywalker was just a farm boy until he received a mysterious message from a princess.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Star Wars is one of the most watched films in history. But here is something most people do not realize. The version of Star Wars that played in cinemas in 1977, the version the world fell in love with, the version that broke box office records and changed Hollywood forever, has not been officially available for decades. Its own creator, George Lucas, replaced it. He altered the film in 1981, altered it far more drastically in 1997, and then altered it again and again. When he sold the company to Disney, the original 1977 cut was effectively locked in a vault. For 47 years, it was never once shown in a cinema. The film you stream today is not the film audiences saw in 1977. This is the story of the original Star Wars and how it disappeared. When Star Wars opened on May 25th, 1977, it was not called Episode 4. It was not called A New Hope. It was simply called Star Wars. There was no subtitle, no episode number. The famous Episode 4 A New Hope line was added to the opening crawl only later for the 1981 re-release, once Lucas had decided the film was part of a larger saga. In 1977, nobody in that cinema knew they were watching Chapter 4 of anything. The film was a self-contained adventure that nobody, not even the studio, expected to succeed. 20th Century Fox had so little faith in it that Lucas famously negotiated to keep the sequel and merchandising rights instead of a larger fee. That decision would make him one of the wealthiest figures in Hollywood. But the film itself, as it existed on opening night, was a single finished object, and that exact object is the thing that no longer officially exists. To understand why the original Star Wars vanished, you have to understand how George Lucas thinks about his own films. Lucas has said for years that he never considered Star Wars truly finished. He believed the technology of 1977 had not let him build the film he actually imagined. In his view, the released movie was a compromise half of the film in his head. He has been blunt about this. In 2024, he summarized his attitude as, in effect, "Sorry you saw half a finished film and fell in love with it, but I want it to be the way I want it to be." For Lucas, the 1977 version was not a finished work to be preserved. It was a draft to be corrected whenever the tools improved. This philosophy is the engine behind every change that followed. It is why, unlike almost any other landmark film, Star Wars keeps being edited, and why the original keeps being pushed further out of reach. The first changes were small, and almost nobody noticed. For the 1981 theatrical re-release, Lucas added the Episode 4 A New Hope subtitle to the opening crawl and made a handful of minor tweaks. It seems trivial, but this was the moment the 1977 theatrical version stopped being the official version. From 1981 onward, the film in circulation was no longer the exact film that had premiered in 1977. The original cut still appeared on home video for a while on VHS and Laserdisc through the 1980s and early 1990s, so fans could still own a version close to the theatrical release. But in cinemas, the unaltered 1977 print was already gone. Decades later, archivists would confirm the stark detail. The original Technicolor print had last been screened publicly in December 1978. After that, the film most people thought of as the original was already a moving target. In 1997, for the film's 20th anniversary, Lucas went much further. He released the special edition, and this time the changes were impossible to miss. New computer-generated effects were added throughout. The quiet desert town of Mos Eisley was filled with new digital creatures and vehicles. An entirely new scene was inserted, Han Solo meeting Jabba the Hutt, a character who had only been mentioned in the 1977 film and never seen. That scene had actually been shot in 1977 with a human actor standing in for Jabba, then cut for budget and schedule reasons. In 1997, Lucas dug it out and pasted a computer-generated Jabba over the actor. The reaction from fans was sharp. Many felt the additions clashed with the film they grew up with. One word for it became common among preservationists: vandalism. But the special edition was now the official version. And the 1997 release on Laserdisc and VHS would be the last time the unaltered theatrical cut was ever sold in a quality version. Of all the 1997 changes, one became legendary. In the original 1977 film, Han Solo is cornered in the cantina by a bounty hunter named Greedo. Greedo threatens him. Han, talking calmly, quietly, readies the blaster hidden under the table and shoots Greedo dead before Greedo can fire. It establishes Han instantly as a dangerous, morally gray character. Lucas came to dislike this. He felt it made his hero look like a cold-blooded killer. So, in the 1997 special edition, he re-edited the scene to make Greedo shoot first, with Han only firing back in self-defense. Fans were furious. The phrase "Han shot first" became a rallying cry, a protest against the changes in one of the most famous arguments in film fandom, and Lucas did not stop there. He re-edited the same few seconds again in 2004, again in 2011, and changed it once more in 2019, when Greedo was given a strange new line of dialogue. One tiny moment from the 1977 film has now been altered at least 4 separate times. In the original cut, the one almost nobody can legally watch in high definition, there is no ambiguity at all. Han simply shoots first. By the mid-2000s, the demand from fans for the real 1977 version was enormous. In 2006, Lucasfilm appeared to give in. They released the original trilogy on DVD, with the unaltered theatrical versions included as a bonus. Finally, the original Star Wars, officially on DVD. Except it wasn't really. The original version on that disc was not a fresh restoration of the 1977 cut. It was lifted from the 1993 Laserdisc Master, already an older, lower quality source with its own differences from the true theatrical print. It was not even properly formatted for modern widescreen televisions. It was, in effect, a token gesture. Technically the theatrical version, but in a deliberately inferior form. To this day, the original 1977 theatrical cut of Star Wars has never been officially released in high definition. Not on Blu-ray, not on 4K, not on streaming. The most influential film of its generation cannot be legally watched in good quality in the form audiences first saw it. When the official channels would not deliver the original, fans built it themselves. The most famous effort is known as the Despecialized Edition, created by a fan and a small team beginning around 2010, using the high-definition Blu-ray as a base, the lower-quality 1993 Laserdisc as a reference for the original look, and dozens of other sources. They painstakingly reconstructed the 1977 theatrical version frame by frame, reversing the CGI, restoring the original shots, rebuilding the film as it had been. The result was a high-definition version of a film that officially does not exist in high definition. Legally, it sits in a gray zone. It is a derivative work and cannot be sold, only shared quietly. But its existence makes a point that is hard to ignore. Ordinary fans working in their spare time produced the preservation that a multi-billion-dollar rights holder would not. The original Star Wars survived not because the industry protected it, but because its audience refused to let it disappear. In 2012, George Lucas sold Lucasfilm and Star Wars to Disney for roughly $4 billion. For fans hoping the original cut might finally be restored, this seemed like a chance. A new owner, a fresh start. It did not happen. According to widely reported accounts of the sale, part of the understanding was that the original theatrical cuts would not be released, that only Lucas's edited versions would be made available. Whether this was a formal contract clause or an informal expectation has been debated, but the practical result is not in dispute. Since Disney took over, no official release of the unaltered 1977 cut has appeared. The newest versions on streaming carry only minor logo and color adjustments on top of Lucas's edits. The original remains exactly where it has been for decades, out of reach. The most commercially valuable film franchise on Earth still does not officially sell the film that started it, and yet the original film was not entirely gone. In the vaults of the British Film Institute sat something remarkable: an original Technicolor print of Star Wars from its 1977 British release. Technicolor's dye transfer process produces colors that, unlike most film stock, barely fade over time. This particular print had been stored for around 4 decades at a temperature of roughly 23 degrees Fahrenheit below freezing, specifically to preserve it. The result was a copy of the 1977 film in near-perfect, unfaded condition. Lucasfilm's own president, Kathleen Kennedy, would later say she was not sure another print quite like it even existed, that it might be the only one of its kind. While the official version of Star Wars kept changing, this single frozen reel held the film exactly as it had looked on a 1977 cinema screen. The missing frame was not lost. It was in cold storage, waiting. In June 2025, that frozen print finally went back onto a screen. The British Film Institute opened its Film on Film Festival with a public screening of the original 1977 Technicolor print of Star Wars, the first time the unaltered theatrical version had been shown publicly. In a cinema in 47 years, since December 1978, the BFI had to negotiate the rights directly with Disney and Lucasfilm. And in a striking moment, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy appeared in person to introduce it, joking to the audience that she was there to confirm the screening was, in fact, not illegal. Reactions were fascinating. To some, after decades of polished, CGI-enhanced versions, the raw 1977 print looked rough, almost like a different film. But that was precisely the point. This was the actual artifact. The film as it physically existed in 1977, scratches and all. For one night, an audience saw the original Star Wars the way the world first saw it, the version that has been officially withheld for nearly half a century. Why does any of this matter? It is, after all, the same basic story either way. But film preservationists argue the original 1977 cut is not just an old version, it is a historical document. It is the film that actually changed cinema, that broke box office records, that launched the modern blockbuster, that reshaped special effects and merchandising, and the way Hollywood makes money. The special editions did none of that. The 1977 version did. To only allow people to watch the later, altered edits is, in this view, to quietly rewrite history to replace the artifact that mattered with a polished substitute. The film that audiences queued around the block for in 1977 has a cultural meaning that no amount of added CGI can carry. And right now, that exact film is locked away, preserved, but withheld, surviving but unseen by almost everyone. It is, in the most literal sense, a missing frame. Star Wars is one of the most successful films ever made. But the version that earned that place, the original 1977 theatrical cut, is the one you almost cannot watch. It was altered in 1981, transformed in 1997, re-edited again and again, and then locked away after the sale to Disney. For 47 years, it was never shown in a cinema, and to this day, it has never been officially released in high definition. The film survives only in a frozen Technicolor print in a British archive and in the painstaking reconstructions fans built when the industry would not. The version of Star Wars we celebrate is, in a sense, a film in hiding the missing frame at the center of the most famous franchise on Earth. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to follow The Missing Frame as we keep uncovering the lost cuts, withheld versions, and hidden truths behind the films that changed cinema.